Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. Ashama, you can start off. Unmute yourself and start off.
Hari Om. So, speaking about a little bit about positive reframing. So, positive reframing is a very powerful mind management tool that enables us to look at negative circumstances in our life in a more positive way. And thereby, we transform any challenges into opportunities for growth to reclaim our inner joy. Just to quote an example, one mother was fretting about the problems in her life. She had the taxes to pay, the houses to clean, the cooking to be done, the party to prepare for, when she noticed that her little daughter was working away on her homework book. So she very curiously asked her daughter, "What is it that you're doing?" The daughter replied, "Mother, I am doing negative Thanksgiving." Negative Thanksgiving? What is that? Mummy, my teacher has given me this assignment to see which negative circumstances in my life can I be thankful for. The mother was intrigued. "What have you written?" There the little girl had scribbled, "I am thankful for my exams." The mother said, "A child being thankful for her exams?" And then below the doctor had written, "Because it means the summer vacations are not far away." The mother's curiosity was further aroused. And then she saw the daughter had written, "I am thankful for my parents' scolding." Oh my, thankful for the scoldings of the parents. But why? And she had written, "Because it means they love and care for me, and they want to make me a better person." The mother then decided that there is some tremendous wisdom here. She started reading on, and the daughter had written, "I am thankful for the bitter medicine I need to take." Imagine a child being grateful for bitter medicine. And why? Because it means I will now be getting well soon. The mother decided that she would also utilize this strategy for her own life. She went into the study room and started writing, "I am thankful for the taxes I have to pay because it means I have an income. In these days of recession, there are so many without a job." Again, she wrote, "I am thankful for the cleaning up of the house I need to do because it means I have a shelter to live in, and I am thankful for the cooking I need to do for the family because it means God has blessed me with a family. And I am thankful for cleaning up after the party because it means I have a circle of friends." What this mother and daughter were doing was a mind management tool called positive reframing. So often we are so stressed by the anxiety, we fail to perceive the silver lining in the clouds that come into our lives. By watching out for them makes the whole difference. That is why in our Vedic tradition, the sacred books and scriptures are also called as Darshan Shastra. Darshan as in showing the path. Darshan Shastra are those holy books which enable you to see. And now you may think that, "But I do see." But the scriptures say, do you really see? You are blinded by a thing called inattentional blindness, where you are not perceptive to the graces in your environment. We are engaging in a phenomenon called selective perception, motivated by the negative biases in our brain. We are just focused on what is wrong with our environment, and we are dumping all the opportunities that God is presenting to us. Factually, the scriptures say the whole world is a veritable form of God. But do we see it that way? The scriptures say we have faith. Well, have faith in God. God has created a benevolent universe, and it is conniving for our well being. So, whenever a cloud of adversity arises, choose to look for that silver lining. There are so many instances where um, I remember where this incident which the story from the Puranas which my grandfather was narrating, where um, Daksh had this huge ceremony and he had invited everybody, thousands of people present there, all the gods and the demigods present there. And then he walks into the yajna a little fashionably late. And when he walks in, he notices everybody stands up to greet him. But he notices that except Brahma and Shiva do not stand up. Now imagine the entire millions of people standing up. But what does he notice? Only that these two people did not stand up. So we must focus on the positives of what is happening around us. Having said that, thank God, try looking again. Be sure that there are opportunities for growth because the universe is not malevolent. It is benevolent and it is always working in our favor. Your goal of detachment from the world and attachment to God will not just be placed on your lap. It's not going to happen automatically. You have to work towards it. It is a principle wherever in the world, whenever you want success, you have to go towards it through the law of incremental growth, one step at a time. You have to move forward. There are no shortcuts. If you say somebody is already there, it is only because that person has put the effort required to reach that goal. In other words, there are no free lunches. So whatever our goal is, we have to toil, strive, and endeavor towards it. If you say, well, the goal is achieved by grace. The goal is achieved by the grace of God, grace of Guru. Why doesn't the Guru grace me? Well, the goal is achieved by the grace of God, true. But that grace has a rule. It's a divine rule. We will only receive the grace to the extent of our surrender. Now, if I surrender a little bit and I expect that much of grace, that is not going to happen. When there is a rule in place, we have to decide how much grace do I want. You cannot wish for a lot of grace, but I will only surrender this much. That will not work. The law is irrevocable. In other words, God's grace is also in our hands. It is now up to us how much surrender we do so that the spiritual realm, it is very simple. In the material realm, you have to think, oh, I need to apply, maybe I need to butter up my boss so that he gives me a good report. And the other person is playing politics and I don't know office politics. That is why I'm in this position. You see, the material realm is very complex. There are people who are very good in their work, but they don't know the office politics, and they keep losing out. And there are others who are street smart and they know all the external things. But in the spiritual realm, you don't need to bother. The only thing that is required for grace is to improve your own insight, to improve the quality of your surrender, the quality of your devotion. The grace from God is guaranteed. That gives us faith, that gives us hope. Only need to know how to improve my devotion and how to improve the quality of my surrender so when we keep this law in mind, after that it's complete peace. Whenever we are not receiving some grace, that means there is a shortage in our surrender. So in the spiritual realm, it's all between you and God. If we did not receive a grace, then we should look inside and see what is it that I could have done to improve my devotion, and that grace would have come. So it's not God's run out of grace or the guru runs out of grace and there is only shortage of our devotion and our own surrender. The day we understand this principle, our whole effort is to improve our sadhana. Our whole effort is to enhance the quality of our devotion. So this must always be kept in mind. Very often, we know our intellect deceives us. We think, why is not God gracing us? Why does this not grace not happening? Now there are certain tushtis that we need to be carefully watch out for to become satisfied in our situation. Now in the material realm, we need to be content in three things: in your spouse, in your wealth, in the food that you eat. In the three things, in the spiritual realm, there are three things that we should never be content: in procuring knowledge, in chanting the name of God, in seva. That you perform with will cultivate the sentiment. Now, there are two different realms, the material realms and the spiritual realms, and both of them have different formulas, which we have to keep in mind. In the spiritual realm, if we are discontent, then we will keep running after money. We will keep running after our job. We will keep running, and it's running all the time. But in the spiritual realm, if we are contented, then we will stop running. Oh, everything is all right. I am fine. Then the speed of our sadhana will decrease, will reduce, or it will completely stop. That is why this tushti or contentment in the spiritual realm is an enemy of the sadhana. So let us look at some of these tushtis that we speak of. One is called as the Ishwar Tushti, the second is called Bhagya Tushti, the third is called Kala Tushti, and the fourth is called Sharanavarana Tushti. Now let's see what is this Ishwar Tushti. Ishwar Tushti is to think when God's grace graces me, then everything will happen. So if He is not gracing me, then the mistake is from His side. Why is it, God, that you are not gracing me? So on and so on. So we are now, what is happening here is, instead of us taking responsibility, we are putting the blame onto God. We are assuming God to be the cause. You need to grace, then I will surrender. We are putting the cart before the horse. The principle has to be understood. Guru and God are samadrishti. Samadrishti meaning equal towards everyone. So this is called as, I'm just reading out something called Jalavrishti Nyay. The rain falls equally on the ground everywhere. The kind of vessel you have, that is the consequence of which happens from the rain. Some of the rain fell on the desert sand and it flowed off without any consequence. Some rainwater fell on the fertile ground and resulted in wonderful vegetation. Some rainwater fell on the drain in the gutter and got mixed with the sewage and flowed off. Some rainwater drops fell into the river Ganga and they became one with Ganga. Some fell into the oyster and that turned into a pearl. Some fell on the cacti and transformed into a thorny bush. Now, somebody says that this is gross injustice of the rain or injustice of the rain, where it has created a thorny bush, and somewhere it has created a rose flower, and somewhere it becomes a Ganga. There is no unfairness here. The rain water is falling equally everywhere. It all depends on the vessel and the place where it falls. Similarly, God and Guru have no partiality in their grace. Their grace is equitable because they are bound by laws. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, as you surrender to me, I shall reciprocate accordingly. If you love me, I will love you accordingly. So if we want more grace, we need to engage in more surrender. Simple formula. But instead, if we start blaming God, you have not graced me, then we have misunderstood the theoretical knowledge. Why are you not surrendering? I am waiting for grace. So, because now you are waiting for grace to surrender, we will reduce the speed of our efforts, our sadhana, and instead, if we decide it is all in my hands, and if I want more grace, I need to surrender to the utmost of my ability, that will bring about a speed in our efforts. So that's the first tushti, is that we need to be careful to weed out from the maze of our intellect. The second is what we are calling as the Bhagya Tushti. This is also very deceiving. This person is doing so well. Oh, it must be his Bhagya. It must be his destiny. We like to say this and satisfy ourselves. So we know my destiny is not good. That is why I am like this. But there are a couple of people decades ago. Um, there was this person called K. Anders Ericsson. He did a study of elite performances and he wrote a paper which became world famous. And he said, all these elite performers, be it a Kathak dancer or a Bharatnatyam artist or a singer, how did they reach where they were? Were they born with it? He discovered that this was not the case. These people had put in 10,000 hours of practice by the time they reached the age of 20. So that 10,000 hours of practice was the cause behind their world class performance. The same applies to the spiritual path as well. If you say, oh, somebody is sailing so high and I'm not there, that person has put in a whole lot of practice. But you can also say, oh, he has started coming to the ashram or satsang only from 2 years. Well, he could be coming there only for 2 years, but it means he also had a huge bank balance from the past. He was carrying forward the bank balance which he had accumulated in his past life. Now, if we find that our own bank balance is less, then what should we do? We have to earn at a faster rate. In other words, don't take the crutch of destiny to become lazy. If we do, then we will get satisfied in the situation. Why are you progressing so slowly? My destiny is bad. What will the consequence be if we become satisfied? Then we will become satisfied in our efforts, and this will slow down our progress in the spiritual realm. There was once an interview who went to interview great music maestro called Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar was asked by the correspondents that you have been giving public performances now for 50 years. So do you still need to practice every day? So Ravi Shankar said, if I don't practice for one day, then I know that the flow is not there and I can make out. If I don't practice for 2 days, the critics, they are able to make out that this performance was not up to Ravi Shankar's standard. And if I don't practice for 3 days, the common audience will also know, will be able to make out and note the difference that this is not up what he usually plays. You may have wonderful knowledge, but if you don't practice it, it will start dwindling and evaporate. That is why practice is so important if you want to quickly reach the goal. Increase the speed of your practice. In other words, it is always effort that will lead to the result. There are no shortcuts and no free lunches. The third is the Kala Drishti. Now, this is called as, I am waiting for the right time. I will do bhakti when the time comes. Do you, when the time comes, it will happen automatically. Will the time come and make you do bhakti? Of course not. It is not that time will come and make us do bhakti. Time is passing away. Every moment that goes by is gone forever. It will never come back. Hence, the biggest loss in your life and the biggest calamity, the biggest tragedy, the biggest reversal is what that one moment which you did not use in an appropriate manner, in a beneficial, uplifting, positive manner. So, time is invaluable. It's an invaluable resource, and time must be very carefully spent. The people who succeed in life are those who know the value of time. So, time is an invaluable resource. You must realize that you can purchase so many things in your life, but you cannot purchase time. It is only passing by. And the only option you have is how you will invest your time that will make all the difference. The fourth Srishti is a Sharnavasti Srishti. It is it is a hypocrisy that has crept in unknowingly, and we are fooling ourselves to say, I am surrendered, nothing is mine, I have surrendered, and nothing is mine, I am contented. And these are all words from the mouth, but they don't actually mean something. You might say, I am contented with everything. Everything of mine belongs to God or the Guru. Now, the statement is very correct. It is technically correct. But are you completely surrendering? Have you completely surrendered everything that you have? So there was this Guruji who went to this devotee's house, and he was saying all the right things. And he said, Guruji, this house that I have is yours. This, he is saying. Then he said, the car that is outside is yours, and that this was correctly, this is all by your grace. The fridge, the TV, the Guruji, and everything in the house is mine. Everything belongs to you. So the Guruji said, oh, I did not know that I had so much of property lying here. So can you send all of this back to my ashram? Will the person really send it? Is that what he really meant when he said all of this is yours? Now, probably the person thinks, oh, what kind of Guruji is this? I have told this to 20 other sadhus and they just said nothing. But this sadhu says, send it to my ashram. Well, when we say things we do not mean, that doesn't help us at all. So the Guru says that all the things that are favorable to us, it is very difficult in our day to day life to think about or go about most of the things. Like our Guru says, the best that we can do in such a situation is to repeat the name um, uh, of Ram, or repeat the name of your Guru mantra, repeat as much as possible, engage in bhakti, engage in seva. So nama, seva, and dana is one of the three things that we can do to actually progress in the spiritual world. It is all in our um, hands. The miracle of God is happening all over. Now, before can someone please let me know the time if I continue? Do I have more time?
You have about 7 and 8 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. So, we can all look at the same situation in different ways. A person can look at imagine a hot sunny day. One person notices the beautiful sunshine, while the other observes a scorching heat. Similarly, a best example I want to give is about, let's take inspiration from a person called Anthony Ray Hilton. His story is heartrending and yet so inspirational. This poor black man was wrongly sentenced to prison. He was in a closed factory when a crime was committed. He was put on a death row, and that is a section of the prison reserved for those convicts who have been sentenced to death. So every once in a while, he would see one of the prisoners being taken to the gallows. Now, for the first 3 years in that 5 by 7 cell, Anthony Ray Hilton was miserable. Then he decided to turn things around, chose a happier perspective. For 1 hour each day, he would be allowed outside the cell to walk in the prison. He became an inspiration for other inmates. Finally, the guards campaigned on his behalf. Fortunately for him, an advocate took up his case and continued to fight it. Ultimately, after 30 years, the Supreme Court unanimously declared that they had wrongly imprisoned Sir Anthony Ray Hilton, and he walked to his freedom. He was interviewed by CNN, who asked him, is he miserable about what happened? His answer was so amazing. He said, whatever falls from the heavens can only be auspicious, like the rain. Later, he was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and the interviewer asked him, are you unhappy about what they did to you? He said, if I stay unhappy, they will still have me in prison. He further added that his mother asked him to chase not money, but the joy, because there are so many billionaires in this world who are unhappy. I have only $3.50 in my pocket, but this is the happiest day of my life. Now look at Sir Anthony Ray Hilton. In that adversity which befell him, he said there must be some benevolence because it came from God. What a wonderful way of looking at things. And so also was the perspective of Nelson Mandela. This respectable, legendary world leader and the leader of the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa was imprisoned for 27 long years, and 18 of them were in Robben Island, which was 3 miles off the coast of Cape Town, in a shark-infested place where he was forced to work in a lime quarry where the sun was so intense he was partially blinded in that situation. Even in that situation, he transformed the prison house into a university. He would keep exchanging learning from other inmates and tell them all, keep learning. And they would ask him again and again, are you? And they would ask them again and again, are you learning? And his instruction for each one was, you teach one and the other person will teach you something else. When he was released, an American interviewer asked him, he said, how he handled the bitterness of 27 years of imprisonment. He said, there was no question of bitterness. I was merely learning through it all. What a wonderful perspective he was. The prison is a choice before him. was not to jump out of it or, be gloomy about it, but he went on and on, learning, and that is what we need to do, even in our spiritual world. Before I end, I would like to um, talk about a short story which I don't know if I have said it before. Now, this is about the miracle of God happening everywhere and us not seeing it. So there was this man, and he purchased a dog. The next morning, he went for a walk with the dog and he threw the ball into the lake. The dog, rather than jumping into the water, started running on the water and grabbed the ball and brought it back. The man said, "What? Is this a miracle dog?" He again threw the ball, and the dog again went running on the water. And then he threw it in the third direction, the fourth direction. He couldn't believe what was happening. And he thought, "Oh my God, this is a miracle. I need to tell someone. I need to show this to my neighbor." So he went to his neighbor and he said, "Let's go for a walk." So the two of them went and they reached the lake. Then, without telling anything to the neighbor, he threw the ball into the water. And the dog again walked on the water and brought the ball back. He looked at his neighbor. He said, "Oh, my neighbor is also going to see this miracle. He's going to exclaim." But the neighbor was unmoved. So he took the ball again threw it. The dog again ran and brought it back. The third time he did it, the fourth time, the neighbor was not reacting in any way. This person wanted some kind of reaction from his head. He said, "Don't you see anything strange here?" The neighbor said, "Yes, your dog can't swim." And so that is how the story ended. But what was the, the real take in this is that the miracle of God is happening everywhere around us. His grace is showering everywhere around us. But we simply choose not to see it. We'll end my talk here for today. We will chant Ram Nam for the remaining time, and Hari Om to everyone. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai 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 Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram